Here and a great night planned. My name is Tom McGinnis, and I'll be tonight's Master of Ceremonies. There were three chairpersons for this event. One is Andy McKenna, Dick Heise, and Father Smith. And I'd like to begin by bringing up a former DePaul basketball player and a great friend of Coach Meyer's, Mr. Dick Heise.
And welcome. It's an honor to serve as chairman with Father John Smith and Andy McKenna, and also to work with Linda Yu and Randy Ramsey and Marianne Beckner, who worked with the committee and did a fabulous job, as testimony to all are here this evening. Coach, all the world recognizes you as one of the great basketball coaches in America. But I perceive you as a person who has had great impact on my life, and I appreciate that very much. Your spirituality, your kindness, your lifelong help of other people has made a profound impact on me, and I look at you as a mentor, a father image. Thank you, Coach, for me and for everyone that you've done that for. In fact, there's probably thousands and thousands of people that you've had a substantial positive impact on because of who you are and what you've done. I'd like to pass on best wishes from Father John Richardson, the past president of DePaul, who says he really appreciated and relishes the many years that he worked with you at DePaul. He's now teaching in a seminar in Kenya, East Africa. I'd also like to pass on the best wishes of the trustees at DePaul University. There's 18 of them who are on the dinner committee tonight. And Jack Greenberg, our current chair, is here also. Now I'd like to say one last comment, which is something special. As far as I know, Dr. Fogg Allen, Adolph Rupp, and Dean Smith are the only basketball coaches in the United States who have had major athletic facilities named after them in recognition of the years they served at their universities. Kansas, Kentucky, and North Carolina. On June 8th, DePaul University is going to break ground for the Ray Meyer Athletic and Recreation Center, a new $13 million building at Lincoln Park campus named after Coach Ray Meyer. You're with Fogg Allen, Adolph Rupp, and Dean Smith, which is where you should be. Coach, this is a wonderful evening, and I don't know when they're going to serve or whether John's going to lead us in a prayer, but God bless you and thanks for being here.
Please welcome Father Smith.
I want to welcome each and every one of you here and thank you very much for coming and supporting Coach Ray Meyer. And I want to thank the committee that did such a wonderful job, and Linda Yu and all the way down, and all the sports announcers that really gave us a tremendous amount of support. And at this time, I think we should give a standing ovation to Ray Meyer for what he gave us. Please, okay? Hey. You deserve every bit of it, Ray. And now that we have our Lord's attention, let us pray. Dear Lord, we ask you to bless each and every one of us in this room, and especially the gentleman who we're going to honor tonight, Ray Meyer. He's a man who lived your virtues, even though he's in the competitive field of sports, and he brought a tremendous amount of thrills to the Chicagoland area through his coaching and his teams. And yet, through it all, he was always a gentleman. And even his character reached up to the camp, up at Clearwater Lake, Eagle River, Wisconsin, where he taught the young men to play basketball, but also taught the values of life. And dear Lord, I'm proud, and I know many in this audience here now tonight are proud to say that he's a friend of ours. So bless him, dear Lord, and keep him around for another 50 years, and we can have another party in another 50 years if we're all here, dear Lord. And bless his family, bless everything he does, because he's a credit to you. And now, dear Lord, bless the food we're about to receive and the fun we're going to have. Amen.
We'll get started with our speakers, and before we do so, I regret to inform you that one of our scheduled speakers couldn't be here tonight. Utah head coach Rick Majerus is ill back in Salt Lake City. He's got a little stomach problem. Coach Majerus, maybe it's a big stomach problem, but he's totally okay, and he really wanted to be here. In fact, he got a note from his doctor today in somewhat of a strange way. He called Joey Meyer and had his doctor speak to Joey and say, tell him that you're not letting me come here because I really want to go to Chicago and be there for Coach Meyer. But he's going to be okay, and he's done an outstanding job at Utah, and he's a huge fan of coaches. But we just wanted to let you know that he will not be here tonight. So our thoughts are with him. Originally from nearby Joliet, now living in Minneapolis, please welcome George Mikan.
Thank you very kindly. That was a great introduction, but you gave 90% of my speech away. Now, in all seriousness, this is indeed a high pleasure for myself. Being here with my dear friend Ray Meyer. I think he's the greatest guy since sliced bread, and I'll always remember him, and if I had any more sons come along, they'd be named Ray. But I'll never forget when the first time I met Ray. It was during my holidays, Christmas season in my freshman year. And the people from Joliet asked me to go try out at Notre Dame to play for them. So they arranged it so I could go on and try out for the team. When I got there, their coach at the time was George Keegan, and the assistant coach was Ray Meyer. And so when the practice started, George Keegan had the fellas take that ball and toss it at my ankles. Well, I'm here to tell you that I kicked more three-pointers than any field goal artist that they had. When it was over, he called me in the office, and I'll never forget Ray sitting in the corner there. And George Keegan says to me, George, my advice to you is to return to DePaul University. You'll make a better scholar than you will a basketball player. So there's always a turnaround story. You know, we played Notre Dame at the Chicago Stadium, and I had a hot night against them, and walking out I said to him, George, what do you think now? And he looked at me and he says, you know what? You win some and you lose some. And I thought it was a classic, and I thought it was well put. I've got so many stories in my mind, and as I was waiting up there, Joey came up to me. He says, tell the story about Dad when he was coaching in Madison Square Garden against Long Island. Well, we went into Madison Square Garden, and we stunk the place out the first half. Ray walked into the room, took his coat off, slammed the door, and he says, you guys are desecrating this locker room. Do you know who was in here and who's the greatest champion of all times? He said, Joe Louis. And we were all sitting there with our heads hanging. And he said, well, he had more guts than any of you guys. And he reaches up and he grabs the hooks that we hung our coats on and pulled them right out of the wall. Lo and behold, we won the second half. We wouldn't dare return there. This I must tell you about Ray. From the day I met him in DePaul University, he started out and he said, there's no one on this team that's first team. You all have to work for it. And work he did. He worked us out the first day over 3 hours. And I had blisters on blisters. And one of the things I'm very grateful for, Ray would never go home at night without finishing up with me working on the things that I could not do and learn to do. He taught me how to shoot left-handed and try to get one foot in front of the other instead of having two left feet. And what he used to do is to have me go to all the dances. And what he would do is pick out the shortest girls in the room. And he'd have me dance with these gals. And he says, "You don't dare step on their toes." Ray gave of himself so much. I can't tell you how dear he is to my heart and to my family. He's a big old teddy bear, and he's got charisma like no one else has. One night we went to a dinner here in Chicago, and we walk in, and the place was loaded. And lo and behold, before we knew it, there's about 15 girls around Ray. I said, "Ray, you never told me about that, and you never put it in the book." But he's loved by everyone, and believe me, I'm also one of his real admirers. Everything I have today and everything I've accomplished, I owe to Ray Meyer. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, George. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Aguirre.
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for allowing me the privilege, and I do think that this is a privilege because there are times in our lives and when we have things that just are perfect, and then there are times in our lives when things are not so perfect. And to be invited to honor a man in which it would take me hours to tell you what he means to me. To be invited here to speak about him is a pleasure in itself. And I'm happy and proud to be here to honor you, Coach. It's a different thing when you're a basketball player on the west side of Chicago and all of America is seeking you to play for their college. I even got a letter from Duke, too. All right. Lost out, but I like your school, though, Coach. You're sought by colleges throughout the nation, and I had my pick of colleges. And, to make it short, Joe, are you out there? Joe Meyer? I just let you know that when Coach came to Westinghouse at the beginning of my senior year, we had already established that I was going to Paul. So all those people that thought you did a good job, there that is. I just wanted to let you know now that everything is, over and done, the big man here, Sorry, Joe. Thank you for really, I know it's your day, but thank you for really taking your time to watch me. But during the years that I was at DePaul University and was able to be in the presence of this man, he did things that coaches don't do. He did things before I came to DePaul that coaches don't do. Ray Meyer attended a high school basketball game on the fifth floor of Westinghouse High School. The gym was probably that long. And he attended the game. And during the times that I know Coach Meyer, there is never one time that he asked me to go to DePaul University. Not one time. When Coach Meyer talked to me, he talked to me about things that mean something, things that make you a better individual in life. You know, when you're a young kid, you say, yeah, well, you know, okay, coach, but it sticks. Okay, but it sticks. And now, as George says, we're better people. And all of you are out here now, whether you want to know it or not. There's somebody in your life to make you a better person. And in my life, and the basketball player that I became, and the individual that I became, and the individual that I'm going to be, the man that I'm going to be to my wife, the man that I'm going to be to my kids, there's always somebody that has, at a point, impacted your life. And I don't think of anyone other than my mom at this point that impacted my life more than Ray Meyer. So, Coach, I love you, and I don't leave home very often, as I told the rest of the guys. But anytime you call my house, for whatever it is, if there's a plane coming and I'm breathing, you don't have to worry about it. I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Very well put. Our next three presenters have been very instrumental in pulling tonight's event off. One of these people is Linda Yu, and she kind of got this whole concept started and got it off the ground and running. She is, without question, one of the most popular and most well-respected journalists in the history of Chicago television. Channel 7's Linda Yu.
Hi, everybody. I feel very out of place because I'm not a basketball player. It's just because I'm not tall enough. Otherwise, I would be a basketball player here, right? Anyway, Coach is somebody who's very, very special. Everybody here has been talking about what a great influence he's been in their lives because he came into their lives when they were young, and he influenced and formed and molded a lot of their ethics and their work ethic and so much of who they were to become. And I get a chance to tell you about a little bit about the other side of Ray Meyer, something that all of the people over there, I think, can understand. But I met Ray when I first came to Chicago many, many years ago. And every charity event, every fundraiser, every dinner that I went to, there was Ray Meyer. And he had 3 more or 4 more to go to afterwards. And I realized that this was somebody who was so caring. This was someone who was so generous, and this was someone who also did not say no to anyone who was in need. In this room tonight, there are other people who represent some of the charities that Ray always said yes to, and these are all people who are also very grateful. But there was something I learned about Ray after I met him and met Marge, and that was that he was also a fantastic father and a kind father. And I began to feel like I really envied all of you Meyers because he was the most fabulous father also. And I think most people know by now that a time when I needed a father, Ray was there for me. When I walked down the aisle and got married, Ray walked me down the aisle. I like to say now that I don't have the marriage anymore, but I still have Ray. And because of Ray, I know that I can still have faith in mankind. Anyway, and it's not just people here, not just people in the sports community from around the country who recognize Ray, but at the White House too. And so I want to read you the letter that came from the White House. It says, "Dear Coach, I'm delighted to congratulate you as you are honored for your outstanding contributions to sports and to the Chicago community. Your accomplishments at DePaul are legendary. 724 career wins in 37 winning seasons is a record that will likely go unmatched. But throughout your 42 years of coaching, you never forgot your responsibility to shape the character of the young men under your direction, as well as their athletic skills. By emphasizing both personal excellence and sportsmanship, you inspired generations of DePaul players to set high standards for themselves, contributing to their development as responsible citizens and helping them to realize their full potential. I commend you for teaching so many of our young people the values of discipline, integrity, perseverance, and teamwork, and I salute you for your leadership and dedication and extend best wishes for every future happiness and success. Sincerely, Bill Clinton.
Thank you, Linda. Marianne Knepper is the Director of Special Events at Aon Corporation, and she has put in a lot of time. She's done an outstanding job in helping to arrange for tonight's festivities. Marianne Knepper.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Tom, just what everyone needed to hear. I'd like to present a letter to Coach Ray from the Governor of the State of Illinois. Dear Coach Meyer, as Governor of the State of Illinois, it gives me great pleasure to extend my very best wishes to you and your family as you celebrate this very special evening. Your commitment to the game of basketball is exemplary. The impact your influence has had on the sport is only matched by the influence you have had on the people of the game. You are a credit to the coaching profession and a treasure to the state of Illinois. May you have a most joyous evening and continued prosperity in your future endeavors. On behalf of the citizens of Illinois, I wish you all the best, Coach Ray. Warmest regards, Governor Edgar.
Our next presenter was a standout performer for the Blue Demons. He played for Coach Meyer from '74 till '78. He was a starter at point guard for 3 years, including 1978 when the Blue Demons were ranked number 3 nationally. And he's got a son that's following in his footsteps, Randy Jr., a little star at Riverside Brookfield. And he could play a little bit too. So with a check for Coach, Randy Ramsey.
He's touched every one of us. And he's touched me probably more than anyone in this room. I can't thank him more than this, for what he's done for me, just not only business-wise, but his loyalty, his work ethic, the family, and the friendships I've made through camp. And the only other thing I really would like to express is that, you know, we're all in this together. It's life is, you know, as you think about it, it's very short. But if you really do know of someone out there, a young man or a boy from the age of 8 to 14, I would sincerely recommend for him to go to coach's camp. And it's not just because of basketball or anything like that. Very few of us ever get the chance that we've ever had to do this. But if you do know of someone, I mean, there's a lot of other things that go along with basketball going up to coach's camp. It's in the northern woods. I mean, you see thousands and millions of stars, falling stars that you never see in the city of Chicago. Just the atmosphere up there, the friendships that you develop over the years, people you meet, you know, for a lifetime. And that's really kind of what I've gotten out of coach's camp. And Coach, I can't thank you more because you've done everything for me. Without even saying a word or picking up the phone for me, everything kind of like has just fallen in place. And I thank you very much, and we all love you for that. On behalf of the 1,000 campers, former basketball players, the Mulliganeers, Maryville, our families, and all of us attending this roast tonight, our lives are better off because of you, Coach. And we want to simply just say thank you from the bottom of our heart. On that note, we all would like to present to Ray Meyer's Camp Scholarship Fund a check in the amount of $7,000.
Now, everybody's talked about Coach's career, and I guess for somebody in television, it's not real unless you see it. So right now, we would like you to look back at Coach's wonderful, wonderful career. A lot of work went into putting together this video. We want to thank Tom Scher from the competition, Channel 5, for a lot of hours of putting this together, but please look to both screens and look back at the career of Coach Ray Meyer.
He is Chicago. There are some people who need no introduction. Coach is certainly in that select group. Nearly 6 decades on the local scene, a remarkable run, virtually unparalleled in sports.
Ball game is over.
the Final Four, a #1 national ranking, one of the best run and most popular summer camps, a loving family. Ray Meyer's life is a series of successes.
I got paid for something I liked to do. I enjoyed what I was doing. Being with the players, the day-to-day relationship, that's super. That'll always be with me. I have many, many great memories of those 50 years.
They were spent on the job at DePaul for 53 years to be precise, a mere 42 of them as head coach. Ray Meyer was a headline maker, but not always. Talk about humble beginnings. Coach was born in Chicago, December 18, 1913. Now, wasn't he a good-looking baby? Raymond Joseph Meyer, the youngest of 9 children, came of basketball age on the Old West Side. In 1932, his high school team, St. Patrick Academy, won the National Catholic Championship. Later, at the University of Notre Dame, he was a starting forward. His 1936 team won the then mythical National Championship. Ray served as captain for 2 years, and that is where Coach became one, often filling in for George Keegan. Off the court, that husky Meyer fellow cut a handsome figure. Marge Delaney thought so. She was playing on a girls' Catholic League team here in Chicago, which was coached by Ray. Who noticed whom first was always debated. The couple married in 1939. They stayed married and in love for 48 years. The Meyers had 6 children. Joey and Tom became coaches, but the legacy of Ray and Marge is that all their kids learned of hard work and love.
You can tell a person, his qualities of a person, by his family. And Ray Meyer, his sons and his wife and so on, they're thoroughbreds. He has 6 children, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
We talk basketball day and night. It's my youngest girl, pardon me, my youngest girl once said to me, you know, Mother, you never read me any fairy tales. You just used to tell me stories about George Mikan.
George Mikan, the game's first big man, came from Joliet to DePaul the same year Coach was hired for his first top job. It was 1942. A couple of years later, they were NIT champions, and Mikan would hit the NBA as a player who could pass, defend, and shoot with either hand. He learned from Coach Ray.
Ray spent a lot of time with me, devoted himself to giving extra time to develop me. Right from the word go, you know, laughingly, we always tell the story that when the first time I took the court, I tripped over the lines, they were too high.
DePaul basketball was on the map, with only 5 losing seasons out of the 42 Coach directed. With little funding and literally no staff, the man held it together and built the program. And of course, he never complained about officiating.
They call everything on us, but nothing on them.
In 1971, Joey was hired as DePaul's first ever full-time assistant, and the program took a step up. But by the late 70s, some wondered if the game had passed by Ray. No, it hadn't.
Ultimate wish, he goes to the Final Four. Beautiful game. Ray, how do you feel, Ray?
I feel great. I feel like I was born again.
You are born again.
I'm a young coach today. The Final Four has been my dream for many, many years. And these young kids gave it to me.
DePaul basketball loomed large in this town at the time of that Final Four bid. If you wanted quality hoops in Chicago, the Blue Demons were it. They were your team. It was a giddy era here at the little school by the L tracks.
Suddenly, from obscurity, we're heroes. Chicago is, I don't know, they've really taken us over by storm. We're #1, so they say, and I don't know how long, but let's enjoy it.
The key, of course, was Joey's recruiting and a local kid who stayed home.
DePaul ranked #1 in America. Final Four team a season ago. It's a young team. Lead to McGuire, and Mark McGuire puts it right on down off an assist from Bradshaw.
The greatest recruit is Mark Aguirre, and he is going to help us bring in more Chicago area boys.
Mark Aguirre was the pride of Westinghouse and his college, and of course, his coach.
I'm glad he was there. You know, when I came along, he helped me develop my talents the way they are now. And without him, you know, I don't know where I'd be.
You don't understand. understand English.
You tell I'm playing the wing if you.
Yeah, I said you to go down.
What's in the middle, coach?
I wasn't playing. I'll be standing out there.
Some of the kids might laugh when I say this because they think he yells a lot now. I just tell them when I was playing, it was a lot worse then.
He would tell me over and over again that I was something special to him, and it was because he was something special to me.
Coach has been appreciated by anyone who knows basketball excellence, whether they played for him or not.
His coaching ability was unbelievable, some of the products that he put out, and the players always respected him. And I think that's a great sign when the players have that much love and enthusiasm and affection for a man such as him. I mean, he's done the right job.
Want some numbers? How about a record of 724 and 354 for a glistening 672 winning percentage? And there were more than a few milestones. Pick one, like Coach's 600th win.
600. All right. 600. Get it back. I'm very happy that this 600 victory is over with, so we don't have to hear about that anymore. Thank you.
Ray Meyer's efforts have meant a lot, not only to Chicago, but to the tens of thousands of young men from around the Midwest who've attended his summer sports camp in Wisconsin over the past 50 years. Yes, that's Coach right there handling the boat.
He's real helpful. He does all this nice stuff for us, takes us out to him, allows us to come down to the beach and swim, allows us to talk to him when he doesn't have to do this.
Most of the time I'm in awe because I think of how many people he's coached.
When a person or a ball player leaves Ray, they leave with some of Ray's blood on them, and they become a better person for it.
In many ways, he has touched us all. Ray Meyer believes in giving for its own sake. Tonight, we repay some of the debt. Though to hear this wonderful man tell it, he is the lucky one.
I love Chicago. I love to be here. My friends are here. My family are here. I don't know, there's somebody up there loves me, I guess.
Our next speaker is one of the best basketball coaches in the country, and I'm sure as time passes and as his career goes on, time will prove that he's been one of the best basketball coaches ever. His Blue Devils have won 6 ACC championships. His teams at Duke have reached the Final Four 7 times, and they've made a dozen trips to the Big Dance. 2 times, back in 1991 and 1992, his team won the national championship. He has been ACC Coach of the Year 4 times. 5 times he has been selected as the National Coach of the Year. From Weber High School and Duke University, Chicago's own Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski.
Thank you very much. I must admit, I didn't play for it and I didn't go to your camp. What the hell do I talk about right now? But I do like you an awful lot. And I'm from Chicago. I don't care. I'm not from Westinghouse. And by the way, I wasn't at Duke in '78, or else I wouldn't have recruited you. So don't talk. You know, I liked Mikan when he was up here, but did you see those damn sideburns in that tape? You've come a long way since that, George. And Joey, I'm not even going to touch your hair, dude. Coach, it's amazing you recruited that many guys with him on the road looking like that. I bet he had one of those John Travolta, you know, Saturday Night Live suits on, too, walking in and out. Being a Weber High School guy, we always thought the DePaul guys were kind of like that. Unbelievable. But it's a real pleasure to be here tonight. Tom, I'm glad you had the guts to mention my name. I thought he was just going to say Coach K the whole night. And he had the courage to say Krzyzewski. You know, it's a pretty big Polish town, so you have to understand that. And my name's been good for me. It's got me out of a lot of trouble, really. I had an opportunity to go to West Point when I graduated from Weber, and you were in real small classes there, and about 15 guys to a class, and I wasn't the best of students, but I mean, there were some classes where I was never asked a question. Or if an instructor really got brave, a colonel or a major, you know, he would say, "Mr. North," and of course, you know, from listening to him, he wouldn't know the answer to the question. Or Mr. McGuire, and you know damn well he's too crazy to answer any questions. And by the time they get to me, if he was really steadfast, he'd say, well, Mike, what do you think about it? What the hell are you going to do when someone says he doesn't know and you've already called him Mike? But my name's been really good to me. I'm proud of being Polish. I'm very proud of being from Chicago. This is such a classy affair. The program that you all have, I mean, how good does Coach look on that, huh? I mean, no, really. I mean, this is this is great. Then you turn on the back, and this is before shoe contracts. Or it's easy to see why Notre Dame is a football school, I tell you. They didn't, but I tell you what, Coach, if you told me to dive on the floor, I'm there right away. It's always really nice to be back in Chicago, being in North Carolina now for 18 years. I love being in North Carolina, but my heart, my family is here. My brother is a captain in the Chicago Fire Department. Bill is right back there. He's my bouncer, too. He's twice as big as me, and he always says he's better looking, and I agree. Just don't beat me up. And my two nieces, Charisse and Lynette. Lynette's going to get married in 12 days, and I'll be back here. And John, stand up, the people. That's a... My niece Charisse is actually my godchild, and she works for Maryville. And so she's been there for 5 years and has enjoyed it. And by the way, Father, your blessing was terrific. And, you know, you're the reason why I think there should be a change in not too many changes in the Catholic Church, but one in particular. Like, I don't know about all of you. Like, I'm Catholic, and, you know, confession was a tough thing at times. And, you know, especially when you were a high school kid, you never knew. You always wanted to know who was in the booth. Don't you think these guys should put their pictures up? I mean, so you know who you're talking to. I mean, I'm telling a lot of secrets there. I don't know who's listening. I tell you what, though, if his picture was up, there's no way I'm going in that one. He shook my hand, and I couldn't find it for about 6 minutes. But there's no better guy in the city who's helped kids than you, Father, and we applaud your effort. You know, it's nice to be back in Chicago. In our area of the country, you know, kids say, you know, Krzyzewski is a 10-letter name. I always say that it's a sign of distinction. We don't have a vowel until the 6th letter. And the hell, it's a great Scrabble word. We win every time, I'll tell you that. But in my area of the country, it's about a 20-letter name because they say Krzyzewski. Except in Chapel Hill, where North Carolina's at, and then it's a 4-letter word, and I don't even want to. But I'm glad it is, because I don't like them either. Coach Dick was talking about right at the start of the night about you and Fogg Allen and Adolph Rupp and Dean Smith. Yeah, now, and this is the truth. You know, all of them were at state institutions. You know, what he did was at a private institution. Nothing against DePaul, and I love DePaul, but his accomplishments are really as great or greater than anyone who's ever coached a game. The number of wins he's had, 724, that's before exemptions and, you know, conference tournaments. And I was looking through his record where he's 11-10 or 13 and 12, and in some of those years, if he was coaching during these 40-something years, you'd have well over 800, 850 wins. You may be the all-time winningest coach, and we in the coaching profession know that. I wish that all of you would be able to, I know how much you love him, but you would be able to look at him like we do on a national level. Coach Meyer is revered, and your accomplishments are just unbelievable. But again, it's really good to be back in Chicago. It's good to say "yous guys" again. I mean, I got off the plane saying, "Hey, yous guys." I got to say "y'all" all the time. Just stinks. And names, or also to say "duh." I mean, what's with the TH? D is a much better way of starting that word. But it's also good to be in an area where there are good names, like, Wally. How many Wallies? There's nobody in the South named Wally. Hell, they're too lazy to even give names. They have initials, JD and Homer and all those things. In Chicago, you got names of character. Wally, Stosh. Damn, that's a hell of a name. Joe, not Joey. It was Joe before the haircut. I know. Became Joey with the zoot suit and hair. But it's also good to be here. In our area of the country, like I'm Catholic, my wife's Baptist. When we go out to eat and have a drink, mine's out there and she has a brown bag, Father. There are no brown bags in Chicago. And by the way, these people really have hit the bar. I hope it's been a cash bar, has it? I mean, they hit it pretty hard. But it's good to be here where belching is allowed. You have a good Polish sausage sandwich, a beer, and blah. And say, oh, you enjoyed your meal too, huh? So it's just great to be back. I love Chicago. I grew up on Damon and Augusta. My roots are here. My heart is here too. And when I grew up in the city of Chicago, I went to Weber High School. I wanted to be a coach. I really felt that the best thing that could ever happen to me in my life was to be a coach and a teacher. I thought the two were together. And I thought that the best thing that somebody could ever call me, and nothing against doctors and lawyers and whatever, would be to be called coach. And at that time in my life, in the 60s, the coach was Coach Meyer. He was an example of what a coach should be. He was that for people in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and he's that today. When I think of a coach, or what I'd like to think of as a great coach, is I think of the words responsibility and commitment. Are you kidding me? When they have those words, look those words up in the dictionary, there's Coach Meyer's picture, because his commitment, not just to the school. I mean, can you imagine in this day and age to be at a school for 5 decades? What tremendous commitment on the parts of both people, but especially for him, because he was so ultra successful. And you don't know it, but probably has pursued a coach to coach in other areas, at other schools and other levels, as anybody in the history of our game. So I think of commitment and responsibility. I think of him, and I think of teaching. And Randy, your stories about camp. And by the way, Randy's only getting $5 per camper. Coach told him, like, if you talk for 2 minutes about the camp, it's 8. Over that, 5. Like, Randy, on the camp stuff, just, he's going to get his campers. Don't worry about it. Whoa. Is the camp hurting that much or what? Yeah, I mean, it was good about the camouflage and all that, and then, but the millions of stars, that kind of, it just, I'm sure you're going to have a full house, Coach. The stars, I mean, the kids in the city really, like, you can come to our camp and look at stars. We'll keep that out of the next brochure. But being a teacher is what Coach Meyer is all about. Coach Meyer, in running his camp, really for over 50 years, coaches don't do what he does. I'm telling you. You know, we think we're hot stuff and we're traveling all around, we're fast, and, you know, to have a camp in upstate Wisconsin with those millions of stars, and to actually be out on the court and understand that through teaching dribbling and shooting and setting screens, you absolutely might be able to open up a door that leads to talking about character, talking about honesty, trust, and the things that you've practiced your whole life. That's what his camp is about. And I'm not getting any money per camper, because that's what he's been about his whole life. When people in my profession study others, they study what Coach has done, not just on the court, but his people skills. The other thing when I think of Coach, and because he was my example, and you don't know, I'm not like BSing you, like you were and still are. That's why I'm here. The word family was always huge. I believe, I've been married for 29 years, and I believe that one of the reasons my wife and I have such a great relationship is because of seeing you and your wife, and how it wasn't your career separately, it was our career. And that's an example that is just not set very often. And so when you put all those things together, you come up with a coach. And as you get really successful in talking to people, because they talk about leadership and they say, well, a leader or a really good coach, either you have to make a decision. Do you want to be loved or do you want to be respected? Choose one, because you can't have both. Whenever that question was asked of me, I say, you're wrong, because Coach Ray Meyer has both. He's loved. He's loved and respected. For the many coaches and people around the country who we call, like, he's huggable. Yeah, with his big smile and his great his warm personality. He was an ambassador, not just for DePaul, but for the city of Chicago, and still is. You guys should know that. I almost did it. Don't say that y'all stuff. You should understand his impact nationally and internationally. Coach, you've not only brought credit to our coaching profession and made me proud of being a coach, you've brought credit to DePaul, your family, and to the city of Chicago. For people who have benefited from you and your example, I want to say thanks for the people that you've touched, me in particular, and I also want to say thanks for the people you're still going to touch, because there's nobody who's more full of life than you. And I want you to be able to touch people for a long, long time. It's been my honor to be a part of this, a little bit of goofing and whatever, but in all seriousness, Coach, I love you, and I love what you've done for your family and for our game. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. That was tremendous. As we mentioned earlier, Marianne Knepper has done an outstanding job in helping to formulate tonight's evening, and Father Smith would like to make a presentation for her.
As I said before, we did have an excellent committee, but every committee needs a coach, one who gives their conscience, one who holds us to our task, one who's a slave driver. Marianne Knepper did an excellent job, an outstanding job, and I'd like to have Marianne Knepper please come up. Thank you, Marianne.
We have one more special video presentation for the entire Meyer family and for Coach Ray Meyer. So again, please direct your attention to the video screens.
For all the truth that you made me see, for all the joy you brought to my life, for all the wrong that you made right, for every dream you made come true, for all the love I found in you, I'll be forever thankful, baby. You're the one who held me up, never let me fall. You're the one who saw me through it all. You were my strength when I was weak. You were my voice when I couldn't speak. You were my eyes when I couldn't see. You saw the best there was in me. Lifted me up when I couldn't reach. You gave me faith as you believed. I'm everything I am because you loved me. You gave me wings and made me fly. You touched my hand, I could touch the sky. I lost my faith, you gave it back to me. You said no star was out of reach. You stood by me and I stood tall. I had your love, I had it all. I'm grateful for each day you gave me. Maybe I don't know that much, but I know this much is true. I was blessed because I was loved by you. You were my strength when I was weak. You were my strength. You were my voice when I couldn't speak. You were my eyes when I couldn't see. You saw the best there was in me. Lifted me up when I couldn't reach. You gave me faith as you
We're here tonight to honor one of the great people in the city of Chicago, one of the best basketball coaches in the history of the game, a tremendous father, grandfather, and leader. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Ray Meyer.
Please sit down. Please sit down, please. Please sit down, please. I love you too. After hearing all those talks tonight, I start wondering as I was sitting over here what my wife would think. She would be sitting back and saying, why are they making all that fuss over that little guy? She always told me she took me out of the gutter and put me on the curbstone. You talk about someone influenced lives. I don't think I'd be here tonight without her. She influenced me in so many ways. Mike said something about a family. My wife and I never went anywhere without one another. And I think about the last 10 years I coached. Marge went on every trip. She was amazing in the sense we could be playing for the national championship on a Saturday night. And she'd get me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. One of our youngsters was playing basketball at 9 o'clock. I had to see that game. Another one would be playing at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I had to be at that game. And she used to drive me nuts. If the team were losing, she'd go down and help that coach. Go help him. I said, I can't. But I loved her always, and I wish she were here tonight. Another member of the family is missing. We lost her about 2 years ago, my daughter, Mary Ann. But wherever they are, I'm sure they're looking down with a great smile on their faces and happiness in their hearts. Tonight, I don't know how to express my thanks. I'm not that intelligent. I just wish that every person in this room could feel as happy as I do tonight, just one night in their lives. It's amazing. I met so many people here tonight that I haven't seen in years. Players who are here. And you know, when you played for me, you became part of my family. I have never forgotten, I don't think I've forgotten anyone who ever played for me. Something I learned after many years of coaching. The games were important for that day, that week, maybe a year, but after that, they weren't that important anymore. It was always the players. I always enjoyed hearing from them after they're graduated from school, about 10 years down the line. And if they're doing well, and they're very happy, I have a great sense of gratitude that I've touched their lives in some way or other. Tonight, I'd like to really thank the committee. Of course, it started with Linda Yu, Father Smith, and Randy Ramsey. I got a call one day from Father Smith asking for my permission to run this banquet. I, of course, readily accepted, but I never in all my life was behind the scenes of the preparation of a banquet. I went to these meetings on Tuesday. I'm going to be lost without those meetings. We had them for so long. I thought this night would never come. And they did so much work. I never realized that these banquets don't just happen. They're the results of a tremendous amount of work. Coaching, oh, I've coached a little while. I never wanted to be a coach. Mike Krzyzewski said that he always wanted to be a coach. That was the thing I was farthest thought in my mind. When I was graduated from Notre Dame, I was working in Chicago, and we had the Depression. I lost my job, and I started to scout games for Notre Dame, Coach Keegan, Chicago University, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa. And Keegan kept telling me I had a great mind for basketball, that I ought to be a coach. I said, I don't want to coach. Well, anyway, he called me one day and he said, I got a job for you. I said, George, I don't want to coach. He said, I want you to go down to Catholic High at Joliet and talk to the priest down there. I promised him that you would be there. So I drove down to Joliet on a Sunday afternoon. I walked in and talked to the priest. He offered me the job. He said, we can afford to pay you $1,700 a year. I said, no, Father, I can't take it. I need 18. I'm married. He wouldn't give me the $1,800, so I drove back to Chicago. I was home about 2-3 hours, and the phone rang. George Keegan had a heart attack at Notre Dame. And the president of the university asked me to come back and coach the team. I was out of work on Sunday. On Monday, I was coaching Notre Dame. We won a lot of games, but I still wasn't set on being a coach. And when I was offered a job at DePaul, I signed a one-year contract because I wanted to taste it, just find out what I wanted to do in life. But I started with George Mikan. We won a lot of ball games. Coaching got brighter and brighter each day. It's amazing what winning does for a coach. I had a lot of fun with my life. And I always said I got paid for doing something I loved to do. And if I had it to do over again, I'd be a coach. I want to be a coach. When I look back and out at all the players, I can't mention them all because I'd be afraid I'd overlook one or two. But I'm going to just go with one. George Mikan was telling about having a little boy, he'd have to guard the little man and chase him around the floor. It looked like an elephant chasing a fly. Well, anyway, that man is here tonight, little Billy Donato. He came in from Arizona to be here. And he's the one that had the picture taken. You had your legs spread apart, and he dribbling the ball through your legs. He was just a little guy, but a big heart. He did a lot toward Mike, and it was funny. I put Billy out on top of the circle, and I have George guard him. And George have to move his feet. And Billy made a move. He'd go by him so much that I thought we'd have to feed George cold tablets, but eventually he could get him, and he'd get the ball from behind if he couldn't stay in front of him. And coaching, I suppose we coaches get too much credit for when we win, and we get too much blame when we lose. I've told this story many, many times. So please, if you've heard it before, please bear with me. I told the story, the New York Yankees beat the St. Louis Cardinals 4 straight in the World Series. And Pepper Martin went up to the skipper, Ray Blades. He said, "Skipper, how come the Yankees are practicing once a day and we're practicing twice a day?" Ray Blades said, "Pepper, the Yankees are the world's champions. We're practicing twice a day to catch up with them." Pepper thought a minute and he says, "Skipper, I got a jackass down on the farm in Missouri. You can work him from sun up till sundown, and he ain't ever going to win the Kentucky Derby." Coaching is just like having a circus. You can't have a circus without the animals. You can't have a team without players. So as far as my coaching career, I'm very grateful to all the players. Very great. They're part of my family. What can I say about George, Mikan coming in? George, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mark, you're tremendous. You were great up here. And you don't have to razz Joey. Joey did a good job of recruiting you. And in that way, I might as well say Joey did a great job of recruiting for me. The only trouble is he played on the 3 worst teams we ever had. And of course, Mike Krzyzewski. Please give him a hand. He was wonderful. He's what coaching is all about. I remember, he probably doesn't know this, but at one of the tournaments, maybe back 7, 8 years ago, I was walking down the street past a restaurant, and his players were in the restaurant eating, and they could see me coming by, and they were pounding on the window to say hello. They have so much respect for him. And we were, I'm an ex-coach, just marvel at what he does with the talent he has. He has good talent. He knows what to do it. But he always is the gentleman, and his players always follow him. You know, it's a true fact. The players reflect the coach. And Mike, you got to be one of the greatest. I want to thank a few members of the committee because they need it. Standing up here, of course, Andy Mikan has always been a great friend. Father John here, I've known him for years and years. If anyone does more charitable work in this city, I want to meet him. Father John, you are so valuable to the city of Chicago. And here's Tom McGinnis, the voice of the 76ers. He did a great job here of being an MC tonight. Please let him. And Little Red Riding Hood, my little girl. She's always going to be one of my favorites. Randy, you told so many stories at camp, but I would never tell the stories that you did at camp, what you did. I will never get. Ann, thank you for all you've done. You were super, and I thank all that committee I'm afraid I couldn't remember all your names, but if I see you, I'll always remember you. And to each and every one out in the audience that came tonight, you supported two great charities, and maybe if we had a ton of money, we'd help other people. But remember this, if ever I meet you any place on the street, any banquet, any place, you come up and say, you were here tonight at this toast to the coach. I want to shake your hand. Thank you for coming. God bless all of you, and have a great night.